is introduction to Employee Central Payroll. What is the prerequisite? The reason why I asked your background is because we'll be only going into replication and all that part. We are not taking the functional SAP payroll training. This is not that training. It is the basically the how we replicate. Basically, the core standard would be the P2P replication. How would we do the employee replication? How would we do the time replication? How would we do the troubleshooting? How do you set up the connection between EC and ECP? And the most important thing, the EC to ECP integration workbook.
But you are
These are
not
the,
in
yeah.
PCC, Prashant. Can you please include PCC as well in this curriculum? Because PCC is the more important, right? How do you really
PCC is also an extension of ECP. As I said, it's an add-on. So we
without how
divided
can you
that into
say that?
different course.
No, how without PCC, how can you say that this is ECP? The PTP only the integration, the small integration, a piece of integration that is. What my question is, without PCC, how could you really teach us these all three applications?
Yeah, I mean, so you want PCC as a part of, or first of all, that
To include PCC also, then we can understand more elaborately because only the PTP application can show us that PCC is also very important, right? Because
yeah, yeah,
within
yeah,
policy,
definitely, we'll include that. We have another course where we have ECP plus PCC. So the thing why we divided this is not all consultants go for PCC. Generally, they are more interested in ECP. That's why we segregated it. But there is another course where we also include PCC also along with ECP. So there are two things. This is I will give demo on ECP, but also there will be a demo on PCC if you like. The reason why we segregated is not all consultants go for PCC. They are just more interested on P2P replication and how ECP works, and then they are happy with that, and they don't want to go with PCC course. That's why we segregated it. But there is a combination of both also available, and we can go with that course as well if you are interested.
how can we call that without PCC, ECP is three applications, right? PCC is a bit of middleware like application, but that's together. So is it possible to add in this the class bit of demo so that I will ask other people to include this because other Vinod also Vinod you okay, right? PCC.
Yeah, I will give the demo on PCC also, but it will, yeah.
You can understand where exactly it is going to be fit for all these three applications. So we will request you, Vinod and me, for your management of somebody. So you can also teach all three together. Then we can understand elaborately. Because
Yeah,
again, separately we don't get that much time away after that.
sure. Sure.
You know,
Taken.
PCC,
Feedback taken. Yes. Yeah, we'll take PCC also today. Okay. Okay. So, but majorly we will start with this topic and then we'll move on to PCC if that's okay.
that's okay. So starting with anything, whatever
Okay.
your area, how can really we understand all three together? You
Okay.
have Android, then you can plan it properly, right? But how
Sure.
many people are going to cover all these things? Everything we can explain, everything we can explain. Okay, first we go through this later.
Sure. All right. So, since you are experienced guys, I just want to know how much you know what is exactly an employee central payroll system. Can you tell Vinod just a small question? What exactly is ECP?
It is the SAP's cloud system, which utilizes the payroll engine from maybe the existing HCM or the success factors and interfaces. It uses the interface and for the seamless integrations actually.
Okay.
It will also have a unified payroll control center. I mean, that's the only thing which I know in
Okay.
ECP.
So let's go with so why I understand, this is the prerequisite. I just ask my consultants, ask the consultants to, if you have understanding of both EC, ECP, and the difference between, there is an EC which is a more of a navigation based system, right? And there
Yes.
is an ECP which is more of a transaction based system. So now, since the advent of cloud technologies, what we have right now, SAP is pushing for ECS to become a source system of records, and most companies have already been live in EC after, I think, 2012. They lot of companies went from their traditional SAP HCM system to EC system, which is Employee Central, which is the more of a source system of records. Now, to understand better is, do you understand what is a hybrid and a cloud? What is the difference basically? If you have heard this terminology in your career somewhere, what is exactly, if someone says, I have a hybrid system, and someone says, I have a cloud system, what does it means in an HCM space?
So you're
So
asking,
we'll go into more detail. This is actually the difference between your hybrid and a full cloud system. So basically, what SAP is saying is, in hybrid system, I can have any HR system like Employee Central, your Workday, or anything. Okay, but my core payroll will still be an on-premise SAP HCM payroll system. That is an on-premise. Okay, that qualifies for a hybrid scenario. So when your source HR system is either Employee Central, and it could be Workday also, it could be anything ADP. There is another ADP tool which is also there. So if your source system is any of these, but your target system is, you are still running payroll in on-premise HCM payroll, then that qualifies for a hybrid system. Why? Because your Employee Central or a Workday or anything is based out of cloud, but you are still running the payroll on an on-premise server, which is on your client location. So, understood this part? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now if you go for an Employee Central as a source system, then SAP is saying that you heard about that 2027 deadline, right? You guys might have heard about it. So SAP is pushing all customers to either go for S4 HANA or Employee Central Payroll. If you are an on-premise customer, and if you have more than one module with SAP, then ideally the client should go for S4 HANA. Or if you are having a standalone HR system, on-premise system, then you have to go for Employee Central Payroll. These are the two options which is given by SAP by 2027. The
so,
deadline is 2027.
both are on-premise, right? So,
This is not on-premise. Employee Central Payroll is a full cloud. So now the difference between hybrid and full cloud is, now in full cloud system, you cannot have any other source system apart from Employee Central. There is no option like, I cannot have Workday and Employee Central Payroll. That is not possible. Okay.
no,
But
that's okay. If Employee Central Payroll doesn't allow really any other applications, for example,
yes.
client already been there on the Employee Central Payroll, some talent modules from Workday side. So, is it possible to integrate?
No,
No?
no, no. Because this is full cloud, right? So now SAP Cloud only accepts Employee Central as a source system, or your onboarding system. If it is on onboarding system, then that onboarding system should be from SuccessFactors only, nothing else other apart from that, because it is a cloud infrastructure and cloud is owned by SAP. Now SAP will only allow EC and its all modules like talent modules also if you want to have, but it should have success factors onboarding or a success factors recruiting. All those can be accepted, but not anything like Workday or anything. But in
Workday
hybrid you
not,
have a chance.
if it is cloud, it's like, Workday also it's a cloud product. So if some clients have Workday as well, some of the time modules, not core modules only, OMP, payroll time will be there in ECP. Some
No,
clients do. Some
they
clients do.
cannot. They cannot have employee central payroll for sure. They can have hybrid. They can still run on premise or S4 HANA. They can have an integration between them, but not from Workday to employee central payroll or any other cloud system. It should be only employee central.
Mhm.
and and that is why they have introduced P2P replication, and P2P replication accepts only employee central as a source. We will see that once in demo. I'll show you,
P2P,
because apart from this there is no other way to connect any other system.
sorry, Prashant. P2P allows both systems,
No,
on-premise system, plus
no,
center.
P2P allows only employee central as source
So
system to connect.
only one way, right? Not both ways.
Yes, yes, not both ways.
Mhm.
Although there is an option to move the payroll results from employee central payroll to employee central. We can move some part of payroll results, like you have a BT table, RT table, right? RT table, certain wage types, you can move it from back from employee central to employee central for some reporting purposes, but it is always from one way. Employee central is the source system of records, and all HR data should be maintained in employee central, and that gets replicated to employee central payroll via P2P replication. That is the standard SAP.
Then how can you handle cost centers? Because cost center is very, very crucial place in payroll. If you create cost centers in employee central, you are going to be integrated with PPP only the terms or
Yeah.
any.
So cost centers, bank cost center master, bank master, and vendor master. All this has to be both in employee central and employee central payroll. So there is two integrations available for each. But I think they haven't given bank master and vendor master, but cost center master, they still use iDocs, if you are aware of. So you have a program in ECP which updates there is a program which updates ECP and one program which updates EC simultaneously.
Oh, I
But
actually only asked to integrate cost
yes,
center because that comes only from on-premise cost center.
yes. So that comes from either your finance system, if the client is on another finance system S4. Let's say your client has an S4 finance system, because cost centers are generally a finance product, not a HR product.
Yes,
So the
correct.
cost centers are generally maintained in on-premise or S4 HANA. From S4 HANA, we will connect to EC, and from S4 HANA, we connect to ECP. There is a program which we run in to extract and update EC with the cost centers, and simultaneously it updates employee central payroll as well. So that is a ALE IDOC technology which we use to update the cost centers in both the systems. And there's a standard integration. That's a standard integration which is given by SAP. But Bank Master is something which you need to enable it. You need to do a customization. They have just given Cost Center Master, but Bank Master and Vendor Master, you will have to still rely on ABAP HR technical resource to build that interface between your finance system and Employee Central as well as Employee Central Payroll.
So being a functional consultants, we can't really handle that, right? IDOX is not that something. Because some clients are asking, IDOX transfer to the contract, because
So
they don't have a source of the adapters. That's where.
yes, yes. In any implementation, you need ABAPers for sure, because even in P2P replication, everything is not one-on-one, one-to-one. You will have some customization. There must be some custom portlet, or there might be certain scenarios from where you need to replicate. Even P2P replication has limitations. So beyond that, if you want to extend it, you will need a baddie to implement, and for that you need an ABAP HR person for sure.
Statutory things, no, in the statutory
Yes.
input. This
Yes.
kind of programs.
So so coming to this hybrid scenario, so generally the clients which will come in future, or in more of the clients which comes in for a transformation is they are going from a hybrid to full cloud scenario. So I have worked on some clients where they are going for HR transformation. So their payroll system is running on premise, and then now they want to shift for full cloud solution. Now they want to shift from ECC to employee central payroll completely. So in that case, in hybrid scenario, you need to extract the data, right? You need to extract the HR data, and you have to migrate it to employee central payroll. From there, the employee central will replicate the data into employee central payroll, which will be your future cloud payroll system. So in ECC or S4 HANA, whatever, like ECC system, when you want to extract the data, you will be using a tool called Info Porter, which is already a part of that migration. And if the client still doesn't want to go for any transformation, they still want to have a hybrid scenario, then business integration builder is a replication tool which they use in hybrid scenario.
In
Whereas
hybrid,
in whereas in full, yeah,
from
yeah.
ECC to Employee Central or Employee Central to
Employee
ECC?
central to ECC.
Oh, reverse. Okay. Again, same, not reverse.
Let's say I have a new client. Okay, they don't have any employee central.
Mm.
Now, how will I get the data? HR data to be migrated, right? I need the initial employee data to be migrated, right? For that, you will use Info Porter as a tool for data migration. And now I'm talking about the hybrid scenario, not the full cloud.
So
So
business builder and info portal, what is the difference? We are using both tools or only either one tool?
if you want to go for, if the client doesn't want to go for full cloud, they want to still retain this on-premise system, then this is the replication, which is business integration builder. Okay. Now, but if they want to migrate the data and then they want to move to employee central payroll, then this they have to first migrate the data, right? Employee data from
Okay.
the
They
core
should
HCM, core
build up.
SAP HCM on-premise system. They have to migrate the data first to Employee Central. Then they have to replicate that data to full cloud, which is Employee Central Payroll. That will deploy, that will be using P2P. But initial migration, they will use the Info Porter as a migration tool.
Mhm. One quick question, Prashant. For
Yeah,
example, if Employee Central is the source of the data, means
yeah,
the data there in the Employee Central. And
yes,
the system is tightly integrated with all the integrations, everything is done. But not sometimes, but every time, we already create, establish the pay scale structures also in Employee Center, like pay scale structures. Not
yes, yes.
the pay scale structure, which we are designing in Employee Center. How come that data goes to the on-premise ECC? This is also part of integration, or are we going to do any workarounds?
Now, what is your target system?
See, base system is employee system, target system is ECC,
Mm-hmm.
employee system. But the pay scale structure, because always we discuss and we think always employee center means only employee data. But we employee data means not only employee data, even pay scale structures also we
Foundation data, you're saying?
yeah, pay scale structures also usually we create in employee center, right? Not in ECC.
Yes, correct.
The structures to integrate with the ECC, because whatever the changes every year or quarterly, half yearly, yearly, pay scale structures are going to change for the employees, right? So the
Yes.
change we are changing in employee center, the pay scale structures has to be calculation and everything be done in ECC, am I right? So how that is going to be handled, pay scale structures?
Why do you want to calculate again in once you have moved everything to Employee Central, that becomes your source system, right?
Yeah,
Then if
only
you
so data source system. But this is payroll data. Pay scale structures are payroll data. Not calculations are going to be done by employee center, or calculations are going to be done by ECC. Only ECC, right? Payroll driver there in ECC still. Payroll driver means on-premise system only, right? Calculations are going to be done by ECC only, on-premise SAP. But my question is, pay scale structures are creating, pay scale structures are loading in employee center only. So apart from the employee data, this pay scale structure data, how we are going to handle
so
both the systems?
so you can still migrate from so ideal scenario is what if I am the client, what I'll be doing is I'll be migrating the pay scale structures from ECC to EC, and that pay scale structure will have to replicate either to full cloud if you are going to full cloud, or EC system back to ECC system. You will have to replicate that data, and generally it's either indirect valuation or direct valuation you will be doing in for type 8, right? So
Yes.
that calculation gets automatically replicated, and then that will get considered in the payroll.
No, my question is straight question. Pay scale structure data is going to be handled by PTP integration or any other integration?
It depends on what kind of system you are replicating. If it is employee central payroll, then you will be using P2P.
We are creating a pay scale structure in employee central payroll. That
Uh,
data should replicate into the on-premise pay scale structure data. Which integration tool we are going to use? PTP or
Business integration builder. If you are doing ECC, then it's a business integration builder.
will not handle PTP, will not handle the pay scale structure?
So P2P, again, you're saying that if you want to replicate into ECC, then it is business integration builder always. But if your future system is employee central payroll, then it is P2P.
No,
There,
not feature system. So my scenario is already, for example, already employee center is there, ECC also there, already existing system. But I
okay.
need to discuss with you is I need to check because in the system already client is there, the system is running both sides. Employee center is running, employee ECC is running. Even PCC is also there in the system. But I need to check the data flows employee center to ECC. Anyway, it's happening. But how this was happening, I'm not able to understand because what integration they are using in the
They
application
are using business integration builder, 100%.
or the pay scale structure, is it? But
Yes.
only PTP replication is only for employee data. That's all. That's all.
Yes. P2P is for employee data and also time data also.
Oh, not pay scale structures.
No, no, no.
Oh,
So employed, we will come to that. So it's one by step. If you go, you'll understand what exactly is P2P and what is P. So business integration builder is similar to P2P, but in business integration builder, you need to map all the fields, each and every field for all info types. But in P2P, you don't have to do that because SAP takes care of most of the logic within the program itself, the P2P engine.
you are saying PTP has some limitations, but business integration builder has no limitations. Any data we can
It
integrate.
both has limitations. Both has some sort of limitations. Limitations in the sense it can replicate standard info types one on one. But if you have certain, for example, in US you have tax info types, right? Like 207, 208, or 209, which is country specific info types. If you want to replicate those, then you need to extend it. Now extension means it has to be a baddie or some custom enhancement you have to do.
Yeah, even Australia. I'm from Australia, but same here also. The tax input types and
Yes.
superannuation input types. We have to depend on the both.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So in that case, you will have to write baddie because that is not a part of P2P. P2P only takes care of standard info types like 0, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. All these are standard info types which is globally globally used, right? But anything which is country specific, or if there is a custom portlet you have in EC and you want to replicate in ECP, those kind of stuff, you will have to rely on the baddies or an ABAP person who will write a baddie for you. But P2P only takes care of the standard info types. Like you have standard ones which are globally acceptable.
And the job information, employee information, and the
Yes,
simple.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
just master data.
Correct. And the second major difference coming to that is employee and organization data. Now, in hybrid scenario, you can replicate both of them. You can replicate employee data, you can replicate organization data also. But when it comes to ECP, you can only replicate employee data. The org data, the relationships, like if you want to find a manager in ECP, that's not possible. That entirely is applicable only in employee central. Again, this is very important.
But
In hybrid scenario where you have your ECC as your target system, which is you are replicating to ECC from EC to ECC, you can
Mm.
replicate employee data and organization data via business integration builder. But in employee central payroll, you can only replicate employee data. You cannot replicate the relationships that A to B, A relationships and B relationships. Those relationships you cannot replicate. Although you can replicate the job text or the position text or org text, but not the relationships.
Even we can't see the same relationships in Employee Central, right? It's similar relationships like SAP
So
or
in Employee Central, you will have to you maintain that hierarchy, right? Where you can see
after
your manager and all that org hierarchy you can see, but
yes,
that
similar
cannot be replicated in Employee Central payroll.
in ECC, right? From Employee Central to ECP, we can't do that. ECC.
Employee Central to ECC is possible, but
Uh,
Employee Central payroll is not possible. The organization data.
mhm.
Okay.
Okay, if that is the case, okay, here just quick question. For example, we created our structure in the in EC, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it's really very good structure, visible structure. Visualization is really good in Employee Central, manager to manager relationship
Yeah.
and employer. It's really good. So we can't see like in ECC, we see that no AG01, AG02, some other naming conventions. The terminology is different in our structure.
Correct.
For example, if both the systems are there, from Employee Central, already we created arc structure. We need to replicate the arc structure to the ECC. You say you can really replicate ECC, right? EC to
Yes,
ECC.
in ECC we can replicate. That is
In
possible.
replicating, how can system understand where we are not handling in EC that relationships? Automatically system understands that age is 01, age
We
is
have to do that configuration. That configuration has to be done.
where in EC
Mapping. I mean to say the mapping has to be done.
and the extra manual work is there, right?
Yeah, in this also it's there. P2P will not run like just like that. We need to map also because EC is your navigation based system, and all the values in EC will not really comply to the same values in ECP. So before we do P2P replication, there is a thing called ECP replication workbook, which we have to maintain and get a sign off from the client
Mm.
before you go for P2P replication. We'll come to that. We'll come to that in certain slides in coming few minutes. But for now, on a high level, you understand that organization data, the hierarchy cannot be replicated in Employee Central Payroll, although it can be replicated in ECC, but not in Employee Central Payroll.
See, nothing. Employee Central payroll is nothing. It's a PCC in between. There is a small payroll control required to handle it. That is called we call ECP. We majority time we are talking about EC and ECC, EC and ECC because the data source in EC
It is
payroll.
just I'm showing the difference. So
Yeah,
tomorrow, if somebody says Employee Central Payroll, then automatically your source system is Employee Central only. It
yes.
cannot be apart from that. The why I'm showing this difference is you will have a confusion where in ECC you will think that ECC is also Employee Central Payroll, or you
No, no,
might
no,
think that ECP is also a part of hybrid. That is why this difference is I have wanted to highlight before going into the course.
this transition time. No, I'm clear about that. I know what is ECP, EC, and I understand. I'm understanding well.
Okay.
Sometimes, bro, it's a very funny thing is in interviews also, people are not understanding. Even interviewers in this interview panel, they are not able to understand what it
Yes. Yes.
the landscape is very critical to understand nowadays. The transition,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Because but in order to do that, you need to work in both sides of project. Then only you will understand what is hybrid and full cloud. So I have done five, close to around five hybrid and close to around 10 full cloud. So that's why I understand that okay, this the technologies differ between your hybrid and full cloud. But if a person is directly working in Employee Central Payroll, they would never know that what is a transition, because most of the times these teams are different. The migration team is different and the replication team is different. So they will never know each other that what they are doing exactly. That is the reason I want to bring this difference, so that in future if someone asks what is a hybrid and full cloud, then you should be able to say what is exactly the difference between these two systems.
Migration, the data migration you are saying, right? Just data migration and replication, data replication. So really, is that really possible? These many teams are there in our projects. I don't think
Yes,
so.
yes.
Here in
So
RC, only one guy has to handle all these things. A very big mess, because these guys
yeah,
are only functional consultant, SAP HR consultant has to handle functionality configuration and data migration and this data replication as well.
no, generally it is different teams, Venkat. What I have seen is it's different teams, because a single person cannot handle replication and data migration alone. So they has to be different teams who handle data migration and who handle replication and integration. So replication is basically an integration topic, because we are integrating employee central versus employee central payroll. So it comes under integration. Now data migration, without data migration, you cannot go for integration and other testing scenarios. So these two teams definitely differ. They cannot be done by one person. They have to be different. Okay.
Okay.
Moving on. So the next difference is the authorization. Okay. Now, when it comes to hybrid scenario where your target system is ECC, you will need a developer access key to actually write any custom programs. Okay. You would have to register with SAP the same which you have been doing for last 20 years. You have to request a developer access key from SAP to actually write any custom programs. It's more on a technical side. But when it comes to full cloud, when it comes to employee central payroll, you don't need a developer access key. You can directly from day one, you can create any custom programs. So you don't need a developer access key from SAP to write any custom programs or baddies or anything.
Mhm.
Now, this is more related to a technical person, but this is a major difference, because in ECC, you would require a developer access key, but in ECP, you do not require any developer access key to write any programs. Uh, Moving on to the server. Now, what makes a major difference between hybrid and a full
Sorry,
cloud is the, yes, please.
sorry. Sorry. Developer keys is only required for adapters, or are we going to handle access key also? Being a functional person, are we going to
No,
get
no,
that?
not functional. This is purely technical.
Oh, okay, that's technical, but other. Yes.
Purely technical, yes. Now the last one is the major difference. So in hybrid scenario where your system target system is ECC, generally the server is on the client location, right? You will have a basis guy, you will have a security guy, because the server is present on the client location, where you will have a client who will be maintaining that server, right? That is your hybrid scenario where your target system is ECC system. Whereas in ECP, the it is owned by SAP, and it is a more of a subscription model. So when I say subscription model is something, if you see an ECP system is like a, if you see a big house. Now each this house is maintained by SAP, and each in this house you have different rooms. Now each room is nothing but it's a data center. That's a big house which is a data center, and each room in that big house is dedicated to some or the other client, and that entire house is maintained by SAP. So which is called as a data center. So now data centers are region specific. Okay. Now in if you go in US, you have four different like east, west, north and south zones, right? So for each, to cater to each zones, you have data centers in each each zones. Like north zone, you will have certain data centers which cater to the north clients, and you have south zone which cater to the south client. So all this is owned by SAP. Any technical infrastructure is owned by SAP. You can directly deploy employee central payroll and use it from day one,
Mm.
because it is a subscription based model. It's more of a subscription. Whereas if you come to hybrid, which is ECC, entire maintenance is done by the client, or like the server maintenance, the security maintenance, everything is done by the client. Whereas in ECP, since it's a cloud-based system, it is owned by SAP and SAP maintains that. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So it is so I'm just going to take a very brief high level uh, before we go to P2P. There is something which we need to know. So before we go to P2P, we need to understand there is a replication workbook which has to be completed before even you start the configuration for replication. Okay, this is very important because without the sign off of this document, the client or you cannot even proceed to go for the application. Now, in this, we need to understand that there is Employee Central and Employee Central Payroll. As I said, Employee Central is more of a navigation based system, and Employee Central Payroll is a transaction based system. So, and and in Employee Central, you will have portlets which houses the information for an employee. Like you have job info portlet, you have compensation, you have person info, you have employment details. All these portlets are going to get replicated to info types in ECP. Okay, and it is not one to one for sure. Okay, so if you have job info portlet, it is not necessary, or it gets replicated to more than one info type in ECP. So you have on the right hand side, which is employee central system, each field which is going to get replicated from employee central, and in the left side you have employee central payroll, and we have all the mandatory fields which is mapped to a particular info type in employee central payroll. Okay, this workbook is very important. Before even you start the replication, this workbook has to be signed off by the client. Otherwise, the replication will fail. Your replication planning will fail. So it is very important that you get this signed off from your client.
Prashant, I'm not able to see your screen, only remove the name.
You're not able to see the screen? Okay, 1 second.
No, it is shared actually.
It is shared.
Vinod, you can see?
Yeah, I can.
You're not able to see Venkat?
No, I'm able to hear, but your screen I'm not able to see.
Let me reshare it. 1 second. Let me know if you are able to see. Okay. So this is what I'm calling as a replication workbook. So okay. And this workbook has to be maintained by functional consultant and technical consultant and EC person. These three people have to sit together and work on this workbook basically. Now the first thing you want to make sure and get the sign off is the number of info types you want to replicate. Now it depends on client to client. They might have some custom info types, they might have some additional info types apart from what is there. So first you have to get the entire listing of info types which are going to get replicated. Okay, so this is very important. What are the info types, what are the subtypes you want to replicate is defined in this workbook. The second is shows the info type and the field level details, like what are the fields you are going to replicate and what is the portlet in EC from where you get this information from. So now if you see, you have info type 0, info type 1 which has company code, start date, end date, and info type 2 you have person data and which is coming from national ID and personal info portlet. Info type 6 you will come, it will come from the home address, and if there is any work address also maintained, you have to mention it here. And info type 7 again comes from job info. You have work schedule code and whether there's a part-time or full-time employee. All these fields are coming from employee central job info portlet. info type 8, which is coming from compensation portlet, and you have 14 and 15, which is recurring and non-recurring pay components from Employee Central. And this is optional. If you have a alternative cost distribution portlet in your client system, then you have to make sure that you have info type 27 configured. And the last one is info type 105, which is more of like contact details, email info, contact info, all these things. And this is gets created if you have a concurrent employment in place. Then you have payment information portlet, which replicates to info type 9. So info type 41, which is coming from employment details from employee central. Then these are some of the portlets which are for which there is no information in EC. Let's say you want to replicate a benefits info type, then you have to write a baddie here because there is no source field information in EC which is coming. Similarly, you have some country specific info types which are dependent on some other info types. Like you have tax info types. Let's say you have residence tax, which is coming from home address. So in that case, you don't have direct EC field which is directly replicated to this. So you will have to derive this info type. So for this, you need to have a baddie implemented. So that's why we have written bad information here. And and all these are info types are morely on time info types where you have absences and time sheets information coming from EC time off. So any questions here?
So this is only sign off document, right?
Yes,
So
yes. So this is the sign off document, and there are certain other topics like,
but
for
this data,
example, you will have to also have the master data like the work schedule rules, right? These are the pick list. Basically, you have pick list in for each and every field, right? Or for some of the fields in EC, like job info, you have certain fields where you have pick list information, right? For those, you have to make sure that your EC work schedule matches. So basically, replication, the what it means is you have to reduce your dependence on mapping. So wherever is it is possible, you try to maintain the same values what is there in ECP in EC also, so that you reduce the efforts on mapping those fields. Let's say if you have this field, the values which are different, then you have to map all these fields. If I don't, if I have a similar values, I don't have to map it. So wherever possible, ensure that your EC consultant has these values same as in EC and ECP. That is why we also, when we design this workbook, we also make sure we have EC consultant which is part of these meetings or part of these discussions, so that you reduce the dependence on the mappings.
Prashant.
Yes,
So, I mean, like most of these things are already being done by the EC consultant, right? While doing the foundation objects.
yes, yes,
Okay. So, which
yes,
means when creating the foundation object itself, the ECP, the person has to be there to map the codes.
yes. So
Exactly.
let's say I am the ECP consultant. I am the target system, right? You're going to run payroll, so I am the target system. So let's say I have work schedules already created in ECP, and I give this list to EC consultant, then he will create the same. Let's
Okay.
say if I don't give this list, he'll create his own list. He'll create his own naming convention or whatever it is. Then what will happen is you will have to map this exclusively.
mapping means where your PTP integration, where that
Yes,
map.
yes. So PTP is driven by the mapping, code value mapping. So for each of the fields, for some of the fields, you have to map it, right? So otherwise, ECP will not understand what data is coming and what data I have to create in ECP. So the
Then
mapping has to be performed.
are we going to connect integrate even pick list as well, PTP in PTP?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So whatever the values is coming from EC, we also have to have the same kind of so That is why this replication workbook becomes more important. We have to give this. So let's say I am ECP consultant. I'll provide this value to EC consultant, then he will make sure that he will also have the same values. Then one field you have to map less, right? Because your values are same, then there is no point in mapping because the same value is going to get replicated. But in case, for example, in gender, right? So now in EC, it is an alphabet, right? F, M, undeclared, all these are all these are alphabetic. But in ECP, it is a numeric, right? In this case, you cannot do anything. You have to map it because these genders are already pre-delivered by SAP in EC for EC consult, or whenever you purchase an EC instance, there are some sets of fields which has already got pick list delivered by SAP. In
In
this
EC,
case, yeah,
we are not creating that. In ECC also, SAP is going to be there, right?
yeah, same gender code. So in ECC also you will have the same, and ECP also you will have numeric.
In Delaware, yeah.
Then you have to map it exclusively because how will ECP know that F is 2 or M is 1, right? That mapping has to be provided in ECP as a part of P2P. Then only ECP will understand and then it will try to replicate correctly. Okay. Similarly, action and action reason. Now this we have to map it because, or you can avoid this also if EC person can create the same event and event reasons. But generally, it doesn't happen similar way. They have their own codes also delivered by SAP. So sometimes you have to map this event and event reason also with action and action reason. So there is like pre-hire, there are a lot of LOA event reasons which we need to map before we go for any replication. So you have all sorts of action and action reasons which you need to map it before we start the replication. Similarly, employee group and subgroup. Now here there is a chance that you can map it in the same way. Here I have the retail and there are some values which is coming from an employee group, and in EC it is called as employee class. So there is an option that we can create the same values in EC also so that you can avoid this mapping. And so all these values we have to map and we have to make sure it is given to the EC consultant, and they will also map the same way. Similarly, address type. Here I don't have a chance because SAP has already defined this address types as alphabets, and in ECP it is actually a subtype in info type 6. So that cannot be alphabets. It has to be numeric. So in this case we have to map it. And basically this replication workbook gives an insight. Okay, wherever I can reduce my work, I can reduce it. If this workbook is not there, EC consultant will create his own values, ECP consultant will create his own values, and then your mapping efforts will increase. So to reduce this workbook is very important that you have as a common point between your EC and ECP consultant. Okay. Similarly, wage types. You will have wage types. Then EC person can create the same wage types so that you don't have to map. Date types is something which you need to map because in
How come
each,
that? Sorry, Krishna.
yeah,
Not means if you create waste type in EC, how come that is going to be same number is going to be replicated in ECC?
because we are giving them this list, right?
For where in ECC base?
Yeah, in ECC, if I want to replicate this as a recurring, let's say recurring in for type 14, we are replicating. I'll give the list of wage types which I want it from EC, which is coming from EC, and I'll give this information to EC, and then they'll create the same wage types or pay component codes.
Here, bit a question from my side. For example, when we are creating in a wage type in ECC, we have so many evaluation classes, processing classes, so much of stuff is there from ECC side. Do you know, right? ECC.
Yeah.
So, but when we are creating waste types in EC, those kind of stuff we can't really maintain in the EC, right? Only number we can create in
Yeah,
EC.
only the number. It's only the number.
Number we are going to replicate in ECC. First, we are going to create in EC or ECC, where waste type.
This is the source information for waste type is ECP always, right? Because in
That,
ECP only the payroll specific waste types, recurring and non-recurring will be defined, and this list will give to EC.
so the same number we are going to create in EC. That's simple. But
Yes,
sometimes I see in my previous clients, at that time I'm not working on ECP, I'm working only EC. They used to ask me create a waste type. I was creating a waste type that is automatically replicating in ECC.
that's
Or
the disconnect. No, that's the disconnect. If the replication workbook is not there, actually the waste type is nothing but payroll specific, right? It's the payroll duty.
that's why I was wondering if I create in
Yes.
ECC one waste type, how come that is if I go see in ECC, automatically that is going to replicate the same number. Already it will be there.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. You don't have to map there. So in that case, you don't have to map. But let's say EC person is directing you to create waste type. That means he has already created it and he wants you to create the same waste types. But let's say client has its own naming convention. Then what you will do? Let's say client will say, I don't want 3000. I want my recurring deduction waste types to start from 6 series or 7 series. Then what you will do? EC person has already created this and you are going to create 6 series. Then obviously we'll have to map this.
through PTP.
Yes, in P2P you have to map it if the numbers are different.
Okay, number is different also. We can map
Yes.
it.
But
Okay.
if it is same, you don't have to map.
Okay.
So that is why this workbook acts as a a middleman between your ECP and EC consultant. So that so now in my client, client I am working, they made sure this. So let's say employee group subgroup, this could have been disaster if EC person has created their own employee classes. Then I am forced to create those employee groups in ECP because they already created it. And if I have already created mine, then there will be a mapping exercise again. But my client has made sure that EC person follows what ECP is doing. That is why we have reduced almost mapping to almost 50% reduction has happened. I'm
So
not
one
mapping in my current client. I'm not mapping employee class, not I'm mapping employment type.
of,
And payroll area also is one area. Now EC person will try to create their own pay groups. Now, if I give these pay groups to them already, these are the payroll areas, boss. This is bi-weekly, this is monthly, this is bi-monthly or something. Then he will create the same pay groups. If I don't give, he will create his own. Then again, my mapping exercise will increase. So to avoid this, we make sure that boss, I am creating these payroll areas, which is already there, which I got a confirmation from client. You also create the same pay groups so that I will avoid my mapping. That is way to do integration or replication or any kind of integration between any systems is your two consultants should come together and make sure that you are creating the same number range
But here
basically.
you're saying, you're explaining us the mapping means if it is a different number in ECC and ECP, we are going to map it because there
Yes.
is 6,000 number, here is 6,000 number. But it is
Yeah.
the same number, still mapping means it's a terminology we are using mapping. It's a replication is different with mapping because if it is the same number, how that is going to replicate it in the same number. For example, 3,000 in ECC, same number in EC we are creating. But that is also going to be matched, right? Same number should be
No,
matched.
no, you don't have to map this because when so ECP is extracting the API. Okay, you have to understand the technology. So when I'm requesting employee information from EC, I'm requesting through API. Okay, that API query will send this number, and this number is already present. Then why do I need to map?
API is going to send to ECC from EC to ECC, right?
Yes. So this is the architecture of P2P. So my target system is ECP here. Okay. Now where I'm going to replicate in ECP. So now this target systems becomes a system to or request employee data. So when I run an extraction program here, that means I'm requesting EC to provide me the information on some employee number which I want to replicate. So this becomes a request, send request. If you understand the send request API, so I'm going to send a query from ECP requesting information for some employees. Now EC will accept that query, and based on that query, it will send a confirmation along with the data which is requested by ECP. So this is a bi-directional P2P. So first, you will run a program in ECP which requests information on an employee through a compound employee API query. EC accepts that API query, and it will prepare the response along with the employee data which is requested, and it will send that information back to ECP. And ECP, when it receives that response, it will see this mapping. All this mapping will come into picture. All this mapping. We'll see that in once we come into a live one.
To do this, we need a provisioning system as well, or only instance of employee center instance is enough for employee center integration?
So first, to replication to happen, we need to set up a connection between one EC instance versus ECP instance. Okay. Now, if you see in EC, I'll go into one sheet to explain. So in EC, we have EC instance 1. And in ECP, you will have instance. So you will have by default, SAP will provide one dev instance, one quality instance, and one prod instance for EC. Right? In ECP, you will have dev instance, you will have 3 quality instance, and you will have one prod instance.
ECP means ECC, you are saying. Okay.
The ECP. ECP. So in EC, they'll by default, they'll give this. If you want on top of it, you have to purchase it, any extra instance. Okay. So now this dev instance has to map to this. So we have to establish the connection between these two instances.
Anyway, you have to map. System.
Yeah. So ECP should know, right, from which instance I'm replicating. I'm getting the data. So that the first step of it is it's itself is setting up the, if I go into the demo, first step is to set up the connection between EC and ECP. Okay. So to do that, SAP gives, it is done by a certificate based authentication. And we have to provide EC instance certificate, and that is a process. You need to connect between these two systems. There is a process. Then after that connection is done, then you have to configure the employee API query, basically, which is this one. Because after setting up the connection, I need to send the query, right? So I have to design that query in the P2P. And after that query is designed, then you will go for application. So 3-step process. And after the query is done, we also have to do one more step, which is mapping, which is part of this query only. But we have to do a mapping exercise also.
So for all this to do provisioning access is required. Without provisioning.
No. Provisioning access is not required for you.
Okay. For this all.
If you no. We don't require provisioning access, although we require EC access.
Yeah, EC anyway we require.
Yes,
But
EC.
batch, any setup batch programs in provisioning, no, right? Any batch
What
program
what
that
batch programs?
once we set up all these data replication and everything, we set up all these things. But every fortnight, every night or every bidirectional data, how does it automatically running? Some batch program has to run.
Yes,
Where
yes. In ECP, you have to run that.
in ECP, there is a
Yes,
batch.
every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, a batch program will be run. That will pull all the data with the changes every 5 minutes.
No need of provisioning.
No need of provisioning. ECP, you don't need provisioning. Neither in EC, you need provisioning. Although you require access to both the systems.
Anyway, you are going to show us, right?
Yes, yes. I will show you everything. So generally, if I go on a very high level, is there is a series of steps we'll follow. This document will be given once we go into the course. I'll give you this document also. I'll show you personally also, and I'll provide this document also. It has all the information you need.
User guide, is it? Completely user guide.
Yes, complete user. With this, you can directly go and configure the system.
Is this
All the information is there in this.
you prepared?
Yeah.
This is SAP one or you did
No,
it?
no, I prepared with my experience. I have prepared this. Some part I have taken from like whatever I have learned from working from other clients, and then I have prepared on a very comprehensive and a very detailed document.
Okay. Because SAP also provides some implementation guides.
Yeah, SAP P2P, yes, they provide too, but they what they don't give is lot of information. They give it very high level basis. But here I am giving you very detailed, like how to check the connection and how to what each field means and everything, and or the how to map for each field. How do we map it? And then all these things are there in this document.
So by
And
looking at
I also provide the replication workbook also in this. Everything is there in this. Whatever you need as a part of setting up your EC and ECP, everything is there in this document. Okay. I think we are up to time. Any questions or anything? We can
Yeah,
have one more
Prashant,
session, one more demo session
do
for PCC. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead, please.
yeah, Prashant, do we get a demo login?
Sorry, but EC is something I can work out, but ECP is something which I cannot provide because ECP is a very hard to get system from SAP, even demo instance. You need to have a platinum or a gold partnership with SAP to get that. So login is something ECP which I cannot provide, but EC I think you can check with Sai if he has any demo instance.
No, EC, I also have the demo instance I do have, but
ECP is
even
sorry.
in that the configuration, I mean like the payroll is not activated. So others I have.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
don't
So that is the reason. ECP is something
Yeah.
which SAP doesn't give unless you have a partnership with SAP, some sort of partnership with SAP, and then only they'll give you a very limited
then how can
access.
show us in your own system, not with the speaking
I have my client system where I will be showing all this demo, but that access is what I cannot provide.
client system, you can because this institute people have any systems, then we can
Yeah,
see.
institute also in that also you need to have a partnership with SAP. You need to sponsor some parts to SAP, and then it's a big process for getting ECP. EC you can get it very easy, but ECP is very, very difficult system to get access to unless you have a very good partnership with SAP and they provide a demo instance to you.
Can't they replicate with the dummy SAP on-premise ECC? Because we used to use servers, right? In previous days, in 5 to 10 years back, we used to have a laptop itself is a server kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Institutes
In
also use.
ECC is okay. That is fine. ECC you can get a IDS version, and we can uh, still cover some parts. But ECP is something which is very, very difficult because it is attached to a client, and it is subscription based, and you will not get easily from SAP until you have some sort of partnership with them, or you have some kind of a relationship, or you know,
That's
with
like
SAP.
application can't anyway connect, but we can't really bypass anything else, dummy systems like that.
No, not for ECP.
Not easy.
Not ECP. ECP is subscription based, right? They made it more difficult to obtain license for ECP, and since it's an open based system, right? They have very tight controls around ECP. Although EC is very easy to get, right? You can register and you get a demo instance easily, but getting ECP instance is one big difficult scenario.
Mhm.
But I'll show you the ECP system end to end. That's not that I will leave you. And in any case you have any issues or any troubleshooting which needs to be done, I'll be there to help you guys. So you can reach out to Sai, and I can have a session where you are facing any issue, real time issue, then we can have a session on to troubleshoot also. And in this session, I'll show you also the troubleshooting techniques, how to identify a replication issue, how to, the steps required to analyze and resolve those kinds of issues.